Hello from Chiang Mai, Thailand, which is a little bit flooded nowadays, but it's drying up quickly. My presentation will be shorter, I think, and I will try to make sense of it along the way. Here's the agenda and a few words about my background. My education is on spot, and I had little prior experience working with LLMs, so I guess it was a perfect opportunity to learn something regarding my solutions. The whole task could be simply divided into asking and answering questions. That's pretty obvious. So my asking question agents were like two independent agents, one based on alphabetical bisection with some LLM extensions, and another one, Omega, I called it, which was based on offline policy using entropy minimization and Bayesian update, pretty much like discovered later. It was used also by other players, I think Sinamber and some other, Kaggle, for example. I remember he published a notebook on this. And regarding answering part, it was much simpler. It was based on regular expression matching and a Llama 3 model with a simple 6-shot prompt. So my solutions were, this is not the right presentation, but never mind. So my first solution was using Alpha and Omega, kind of like Alpha in active asking mode, and if it was rejected, then it was using Omega. And the second solution was using only Omega as an asking agent and Alpha only as an answerer. I hope that's pretty clear to the players. So a little bit of context about alphabetical bisection. Soon after I joined the competition, it was very early in June, I discovered that the game could be played with other methods, other strategies than language models, and it looked like they were pretty effective. And I thought there is a risk some players could adopt some maybe secret strategy and could take advantage of these non-LLM strategies. So I thought the best, or maybe the only way to prevent that would be to publish the protocol, make it open, and if it was adopted, then this public protocol would just neutralize any advantage from secret collusion, and it would be like fair to everyone. And that's what happened. I published the Agent Alpha code, and well, there was some feedback, but largely it was ignored during the development stage until only very short before the deadline, some prominent players adopted it, and then it got some wider adoption. But still, compared with the 800 players, it was pretty small group that adopted this strategy, which turned out to be to give a huge advantage in the end, as everybody knows. So the algorithm itself is very simple and it doesn't have much room for improvement, but its performance depends very much on the vocabulary quality. So I spent lots of time preparing the vocabulary. It was a critical component. And it was even more difficult because the set of private keywords was not was like changing during the development stage. It was not clear what keywords will be used, and only maybe 2 weeks before the deadline, it was clear that the private keywords will come from the same bag of words as public keywords, and it made possible to work on the vocabulary in a more structured way. So I used Llama 3 to generate similar keywords. It was a good method and good application for the language model. Many of those keywords turned out to be the hits, like in the I also collected keywords from other public sources, like previous research on this problem on the game, public nouns, and also importantly lists from marketplaces like Amazon, Google, and Facebook. They contain lots of products, like 2 or 3 word keywords that would be like difficult to come up to find out in other ways. I think they were good sources of those keywords. So in the end, the vocabulary was well prepared, I think, and ranked. What was important, every keyword in the vocabulary had a rank, which was pretty accurate in the end. But my solution had a serious failure. I just forgot to apply the ranking during the guessing round, the guessing part of the game. And instead of guessing the most probable or most ranked, or highest ranked word, my agent would just guess any word from the remaining stack. So it was a serious shortcoming. And there were other pitfalls which I spotted only during the evaluation phase, when there was more time to analyze the games. So there was issues with grammatical number, like singular versus plural, and also spelling issues, like whether a keyword was compound or compound noun, or separate, had separate spelling. It affected the algorithm in a way that I didn't consider before. But one thing I did, which was quite helpful, it made a difference. I think it was a search extension. When alpha search ended up with keywords exhausted, then I used the language model to find new candidates within the bounds of the alphabetic range, and it could find it could guess the keyword in some cases. So the other agent, quite independent from alpha, was Omega, and it came out from my frustration with language models. I couldn't find such a nice structure, such a nice framework as Andrew found, with this staged narrowing down. Is a brilliant solution, I think, but I couldn't come up with such an idea. It felt like it's falling apart, and it was constant struggle back and forth. Like the language model would work for some words, for some classes of words. It couldn't work for other, and the testing was slow. Any query would take seconds to be answered, so it couldn't be scaled up or tested thoroughly as I would like to. So I came up with this idea of universal questions, which would just partition the semantic space in any way, like random directions. These questions were not related to themselves, were not tied together. There was no narrowing down. There was just random questions that would just partition the semantic space. There was some structure, but not deep, just one level. When a question is it edible was answered yes, then I would ask about, is it a snack or is it a desert? But not much more, no more narrowing down. And this method also depended on vocabulary. It was very important to have right predefined fixed list of keywords. And I used Llama 3 to generate answers for all these questions and keywords. So in total, it would be like 50,000 more, I don't know, 500,000 questions. Answers. Much less actually, because of the one level nesting. But many. It took many nights to get all those answers. And then I used Llama 3.1 to verify these answers. And by the way, I could obtain a question reliability coefficient, which could be plugged into the Bayesian update, and which would make a difference between reliable questions and less reliable questions, and it worked pretty well. Also, first letter questions could be generated on the fly, and during the game, it was like quite a few of them always asked, and they were quite helpful. So easy questions, reliable, and they could partition the space in alphabetical space, but kind of fit together naturally with those other questions. So the procedure of questioning was more or less like this. All the keywords initialized uniformly with a prior probability of being the correct keyword. Then the question that would minimize entropy in the probability distribution was selected. So it was usually it was a question that would bisect the space as much as possible at any given stage, at any given round. And after hearing the answer, some would be updated using the Bayes theorem with the question reliability term plugged in. I don't know how it could be explained theoretically, because Bayes theorem doesn't have this term, but kind of it fitted and it worked very well. It worked better than without it. And finally, during the guessing stage, the keyword with the highest probability would be suggested as the guess. That's how it worked, more or less. And the performance of this agent, about 90% guess rate. Oh, this is a wrong presentation. Sorry, my mistake. It should be lower a little bit. But yeah, the guess rate was high, especially when the correct keyword, when the secret keyword was in the vocabulary and the answers were good. Certainly, the success rate depended on the answerer and the grading as if answer were not good. So obviously, one important caveat for this method is just like with alpha search, it cannot guess a keyword that is not in the vocabulary. But again, language model could be used to help with guessing. So I used, after 16 rounds, if there was no guess, I would prompt the language model with some summary of the game so far, and with some similar things to work with, and initial letters perhaps, and then Llama would be able to guess. Slowly. For this occasion, I did some extra testing and with self-play test on 30 actual random private keywords. I mean, actually private keywords. The overall success rate of this Omega agent was about 60%, with average win reward 8.2. And we can see a very big difference when the secret keyword was in vocabulary. It was almost 90%. When it was not in the vocabulary and Llama was supposed to guess the keyword in the final 4 rounds, it was only 19%, and similar numbers for Llama 3.1, just slightly worse. I know, of course, it's not clear how it would work with other answerers. It's like we cannot really test against all the agents in the wild. It would take another simulation to do it. So findings. My findings, what I learned from this competition is that it's difficult to work with language models. I feel like the methodology of prompt engineering is not clear yet. It's not mature. It's based on trial and error, and of course, there is another complication that they are just slow to work with, and also I struggled with out of memory exceptions, even though I had a 16 gigabyte GPU, but well, it just depended on a prompt. If the prompt was too long or too big or too weird, I guess, then the out of memory exception would be thrown by the model. But language models turned out to be great for specific subtasks. Just like Andrew mentioned, if we know exactly what we want from them, then they are very useful, very ahead. Insights, that's a difficult topic. So in general, I had little confidence in language models as a complete solution. So I bet on alphabetical dissection with my ideas and extensions. I bet on the offline policy and its universal questions, and it turned out to be very robust. The second agent, based only on Omega, was a top finisher among the half and non-alpha solutions. It scored 1082. And it would win a silver, I think. And important thing is that both these strategies relied on a good vocabulary. Good vocabulary was the key, was critical. Fun aspects. Well, I think evaluation was the most fun aspect, even though very stressful. I had to go to bar to spend final evenings just maybe drinking a beer and maybe smoke too much. It was quite stressful because I invested lots of my energy into this competition, and it was quite stressful, yes. But getting familiar with other players was definitely worth it. I mean, unlike in other competition, when it's over and it's just over and everybody goes home and there's not much interaction. In this competition, there was much more prolonged interaction during these 2 weeks. Yeah, so overall, it was a very fun game. It was a unique problem, and also what else? I forgot. it was in the other presentation. So thank you.